Coffee can add 2 years to your life. That's not a headline from a coffee company. That's what a massive analysis of over 40,000 Americans actually found. But here's the catch. Most people are drinking it in a way that cancels that benefit out completely. So today we're finding out exactly how much coffee helps, who it doesn't help at all, and the one mistake that's quietly wrecking your morning ritual. Hey, I'm Larry, and I'm here to guide you through the science of living longer, feeling better, and aging on your own terms. And today, we're talking about coffee. You've probably heard both sides of this by now. There's the crowd that treats coffee like a religion, the ones who genuinely believe their personality doesn't load until the first sip. And then there's the crowd that quit it completely, blaming it for everything from racing hearts and anxiety spikes to wrecked sleep and, according to some corners of the internet, burnt out adrenals. Both sides sound absolutely certain, which is usually a pretty good sign that the real answer is messier than either camp wants to admit. So I did what any reasonable lemur with too much free time does. I ignored both camps completely and went straight to the actual research. And what I found wasn't a clean yes or a clean no. It was something closer to a user manual, the kind nobody ever actually handed us. So grab your cup, get comfortable, and let's actually figure this out. Let's start with the number that changes everything. Researchers pulled data from over 43,000 adults tracked for nearly 2 decades as part of a major national health survey. They looked at coffee drinkers versus non-drinkers and calculated something called life expectancy at age 50. People who drank zero coffee had an average of just over 30 years left to live at that point. People who drank 1 to 2 cups a day gained roughly 2 extra years compared to the non-drinkers. 2 years. From a drink most of us already have sitting in the kitchen. And here's the part that surprised the researchers themselves. A significant part of that gain came from one specific place: a lower risk of dying from cardiovascular disease. Coffee, it turns out, is doing something quietly protective for your heart and blood vessels, the same systems responsible for the majority of early deaths in this country. Now, before you go brew a pot the size of a swimming pool, the benefit wasn't purely linear. It climbed, it peaked, and past a certain point drinking more didn't keep adding more years. Moderate really was the operative word. Somewhere in that 1 to 3 cup range is where the science keeps landing. Think of it less like a video game where more points always means more score, and more like seasoning a dish. A pinch of salt makes everything better. Dump in the whole shaker and you've ruined dinner. So the amount matters, but it turns out the amount isn't even the most important variable. What matters more is what's happening to your cup before it ever reaches your lips. A research team at Tufts University wanted to answer a question nobody had really nailed down before. Not just how much coffee people drink, but what they're loading into it. Sugar, sweetener, cream, saturated fat. They tracked this across tens of thousands of adults and compared it to mortality data. Here's the twist. Drinking coffee loaded with sugar and saturated fat essentially erased the protective effect, not reduced it a little. Erased it. The people getting the longevity benefit were largely the ones drinking it black or close to it. Think about what that actually means for a second. It's not really coffee doing the heavy lifting here, it's what coffee replaces. A black coffee instead of a sugary breakfast drink, instead of a syrup-loaded seasonal favorite that's basically dessert in a cup. The research is quietly telling us that the vehicle isn't the reward, it's the choice underneath it. I'm not saying torch your caramel latte habit overnight, but if you're chasing the longevity number, the version of coffee that gets you there looks a lot closer to what your grandfather drank out of a diner mug than whatever's written in cursive on a seasonal menu board with whipped cream and a drizzle on top. That drink might be delicious. It's just playing a completely different game than the one the research is actually measuring. Now let's talk about something coffee is doing that has nothing to do with your heart at all: your brain. A study out of Zhejiang University followed adults in their 60s and 70s for years, tracking who developed dementia and who didn't. People drinking 2 or more cups of coffee daily showed a notably lower risk of developing dementia compared to non-drinkers. Part of the explanation seems to come down to what's actually inside your mug. Coffee isn't just caffeine. It contains over 1,000 different bioactive compounds, things like chlorogenic acid and polyphenols, which appear to calm inflammation in the body, including the kind of low-grade, slow-burning inflammation researchers increasingly link to cognitive decline. It's a bit like your brain has a maintenance crew working the night shift, and coffee happens to be handing them better tools. Your morning cup might be doing quiet maintenance work on the exact organ you'll need the most as you age, decades before you'd ever notice a difference. So far, this sounds like coffee is basically a miracle, which brings us to the part almost nobody talks about. Coffee doesn't treat everyone the same, and the reason comes down to your genes. There's a gene called CYP1A2 that controls how fast your liver breaks down caffeine. Some people are fast metabolizers. Their body processes it efficiently, clears it out, and moves on. And the research suggests they're the ones getting the strongest protective benefits from every cup. Other people are slow metabolizers. Caffeine lingers in their system for hours longer than they'd expect. And for them, drinking 4 or more cups a day has actually been linked to increased risk of heart attack, where the same amount posed no such risk for fast metabolizers. Same exact cup, poured from the same pot, and it produces two opposite outcomes depending entirely on biology you were born with and never chose. And there's another layer here. Hormones change how your body clears caffeine too, which is part of why some research shows women can process it differently than men, and why that processing speed can shift across life stages. So here's what I'm actually curious about. After your afternoon coffee, which one are you? Are you the person who's still wired at midnight, heart doing a little extra something, wishing you'd stopped after breakfast? Or are you the one who can finish a cup at 8 p.m. and be asleep by 9:30 like it did nothing at all? Drop a comment below. Let's see which camp actually wins. Because that split isn't about willpower or self-control, it's written into your DNA. That difference is also exactly why coffee has a dark side worth naming honestly. For slow metabolizers, or for anyone leaning on multiple strong cups just to function, caffeine can spike anxiety, disrupt the deep sleep your body needs to actually repair itself overnight, and put extra strain on the adrenal system that's already managing your daily stress load. None of that shows up as a dramatic symptom. It shows up as feeling wired but tired, day after day, without ever connecting the dots back to the fourth cup. The fix isn't complicated. It's just easy to ignore. Pay attention to your own response instead of what worked for someone else. Keep the later cups earlier in the day, ideally well before early afternoon, since caffeine can still be affecting your sleep architecture hours after you've stopped feeling the buzz. And notice the honest signal your own body is sending, whether that afternoon cup is calming your system or quietly taxing it like an unpaid bill that keeps compounding interest. So where does that leave us? Coffee, at a moderate amount and without a truckload of sugar and cream riding along with it, is genuinely linked to a longer life, a healthier heart, and a sharper brain later in life. It's showing up study after study in different countries with different research teams, which is usually a good sign something real is going on. But it's not a universal prescription for everyone. Your genetics decide how much of that benefit you personally get to cash in, and your habits around timing and what you're pouring into the cup decide whether you're helping your body or quietly working against it every single morning. The real takeaway isn't drink more or drink less. It's drink smarter, and actually pay attention to how your own body responds instead of copying someone else's routine. If this changed the way you're going to look at your next cup, that's exactly the kind of thing worth a like. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who are trying to figure out this stuff too. And if you don't want to miss what we're digging into next, hit subscribe and turn on that bell because there's a lot more of this rabbit hole left to explore. Stay curious, stay long.